Hi, I'm Santa Andy, and I want to welcome you to Art Talk with Andy. I'm joined in the studio today by my good buddy, Elf Stephen White, who will be manning the camera and also adding his delightful commentary.
I still don't have an elf voice prepared.
That's okay, I forgot to send you the memo.
Okay.
I have taught literally thousands of people how to paint, and if you have any desire to learn how to paint, I can teach you how to do it. And today we are painting a single holiday candle. So we're going to do a nice lighting background effect, and then we'll actually paint the candle and the flame for you.
Last episode we did a tree.
Yes.
And this time we're doing a candle that can go on the tree, next to it? Probably not on. If
Not
you have
on
a real
it.
tree.
We're not in Victorian times anymore.
Okay.
So it can go Christmas tree adjacent.
Cool.
So let's get started by telling you how I am getting set up to paint today. I have a 3x12 canvas.
You sure about that?
No, I'm not sure. So Stephen's going to put the dimensions on. You're not even filming this.
I'm guesstimating. That looks like a 3x8.
It's probably a 3x9, but
Okay.
it might be. Stephen's going to put the dimensions of our canvas up there for you. So I've made a few loops of tape and I've attached this to a wooden board, which is my handheld easel, which keeps my hands out of the paint. So we're going to start by putting some pure black and some asphaltum on our palette. And then Elf Stephen and I have been in long deliberations about what the background effect is actually called. And he has informed me that it is
Bokeh.
bokeh. Okay, so it is a bokeh background effect, which is kind of more a photography thing with out of focus lights in the background.
It's something that everybody has seen, but not a ton of people know the name for it.
That's exactly right. So thank you, Stephen, for filling me in on how to pronounce that. I'm going to start over here on the right-hand side of my canvas, and I'm just going to brush on some asphaltum on the right-hand side of the canvas, and then I'm going to wipe my brush and pick up pure black, and I'm going to blend the pure black into my asphaltum, starting our bokeh effect with a little bit of background light. And when you get something like that on your canvas, just flick it out of the way.
What was that?
It was part of where I trimmed my canvas.
Oh.
So nothing important, nothing to see. Let's keep it moving along. All right, so I'm going to give a quick little brush over my asphaltum and soften that into the background a little bit more. Let's make sure we've got pretty good coverage there. All right, that's a lot of work just to get started. I'm going to set that big brush aside, and I'm going to grab a number 10 filbert brush, and we'll put a little bit of yellow ochre onto our palette. And I'm using a number 10 filbert brush, and I'm going to create a few kind of little circles on my canvas. And so to do that, I'm going to hold my brush with the handle up toward the ceiling, and I'm holding the brush between my fingers so that I can rotate it around. And I'm going to put one yellow ochre circle on, and that doesn't look like much right now, but trust me, it's plenty. And I'm going to move over and put another one on. And that one didn't seem to show up, so I'll pick up a little more yellow ochre and we'll put that on again. I want these to be fairly subtle, so we could see two little yellow ochre swirls. Let me wipe that black out of the brush, and I'll add another little circle to my background. And this is just setting the stage for our out of focus lighting in the background. You got to start somewhere. Isn't that what you always say, Stephen?
I always say that.
There's a little bigger circle, and these are not quite all the same size, and they're not the same distance apart. We're just kind of creating what should look like a very random assortment of lighting in the background, but of course, you know, everything is super well planned out. All right, so we don't want these too bright, but we're going to leave them just like that for just a minute, And I don't want to dry it with a heat gun. I just want to give this just a couple of minutes to get a little bit sticky. So we're going to be back in just a second. This will be a little bit drier. We're not quite dry, but we're quite a bit stickier than we were, which is exactly what we want. So I'm going to take my big 1-inch flat brush and really kind of wipe that excess black paint out of the brush. Get quite a bit out. And what I want to do is basically lay the brush, which has almost no paint on it, and I want to very lightly just kind of wipe over the background. And Stephen's probably got a really good shot of this. And you can see that everything just kind of sank into the background a little bit more. So we're going to pick up a little bit of yellow ochre on our filbert brush, and we're going to hold the brush upright again, and we're going to give a little more yellow ochre to our lights in the background. We're really making these very, very subtle lighting effects in the background. And to soften them in, again, I'm going to take that 1-inch brush with almost no paint on it and just give a quick little brush over that yellow ochre, and that will in fact soften that a little bit more into the background. All right, that's been a lot of work just getting this kind of blurred lighting effect going on, but we are going to use our heat pen tool and give it a good dry. Okay, we are back and our background is completely dry, and what I want to do now is just increase our out of focus lighting, our bokeh effect. Pick up a little bit more yellow ochre, and this time instead of adding the little swirl, I'm going to lay the brush down and barely brush on a little bit of extra yellow ochre on a few of these little areas. So we've just kind of turned up the light in the background just a tiny little bit. If yours has gotten away from you and it's gotten too bright and these are starting to look like yellow spots in the background, again, take that flat brush that has almost no black paint on it and just give a quick brush over, and that virtually dry brush will really set that lighting into the background. Now, I'm noticing something, and I want Stephen to zoom in real quick, that there are a few little pinholes of white paint in our background, and that's just something we can't have. So I'm going to take a small number 8 or 10 flat brush and a little black and some water, and we're going to thin that black down quite a bit, blot our brush, and then we're just going to come back in here and make sure that any little pinholes are gone. Sometimes there's just something about these little pinholes in a dark background that I just can't stand. They just have to be gotten rid of. And some people think that's a little foolish to worry about that kind of stuff, but I guarantee you, when you're done with your painting, you or somebody else is suddenly going to find that those little white pinholes are just about the only thing you'll notice on your painting. And I know it really bothers Elf Stephen when he sees pinholes in his backgrounds.
Tell me about it.
It's so bad. All right, so let's give this a quick dry, and then we'll come put our design on and start with the real star of the show. I'd like to take a minute to thank Plaid Enterprises for sponsoring Art Talk. They are the makers of folk art acrylics, which I absolutely love using. I've used this paint since I was a young tot, and now that I'm an old fart, I still use this paint. We have a 17-piece set that we've curated just for you. Ordering information is in the description below, and we also have great brushes for you. We have a 7-piece set of Folk Art Select Firm Bristle brushes. These are absolutely incredible. I use them every time I paint. And I've never done that in my entire life. Now, let's get back to our video. Okay, we have completed our background, and this will all become much less important once we get our candle on there. So I have the design from our downloadable template. The link to our downloadable template is in the description box below. So I've got my design and I've got it traced onto some tracing paper, and I'm going to turn that tracing paper over so I'm on the back of the tracing paper, and I'm going to use a piece of white chalk. And somebody will be wondering what kind of white chalk, and the best answer I can give you is the cheapest white chalk that you can find. That's what you want. Don't get dustless chalk or anything like that. Just find the cheapest box of white chalk you can find, and that will be the best chalk for this operation. So I'm basically just going over the pattern lines. Don't lay the chalk down and just scribble on the side of the chalk. You don't need that. Just go over your design lines, turn your drawing right side up, give it a little flick to get rid of the excess chalk. Then we're going to lay our pattern down on our surface, and we're going to take a brief pause because we didn't get a pen or pencil. All right, I have a pen and I've got my design turned with the chalk side down, and I am going to go over my design lines, and we're going to do a quick check, and you can see that my design is transferring, which is what we want. And transferring with chalk, you will always get a beautiful design on a dark background, and it's very easy to get rid of any of these lines. You can brush them off or wipe them off with a little water. So they're very, very easy to get rid of. And then just do a very light transfer of the candle flame. So this is our design transferred to our surface.
It's like magic.
It's Christmas magic.
Christmas magic.
So I'm going to put some apple red out on my palette. And I'm going to give my candle its first coat of apple red.
I mean, look, it's a candle, right? So it's like a little vintage. If this was an updated painting, do you think it'd be like an iPhone flashlight?
No, I think one thing that has never gone away is kind of the romance that candlelight holds.
What if it was like one of those candles that's like a LED bulb and you just turn it on?
So I've actually added a little bit of yellow ochre to the apple red just to give it a little bit more coverage or hiding power. But it's gonna take a couple of coats, so let's not kid ourselves. We're painting red over black, and that's just one of those combinations that takes a couple of coats to cover. So Elf Steven is going to work his elfin magic on this and make this go by really fast while I get my candle to be an opaque red.
You see, folks, he wants me to make toys for him and then edit his videos for him.
Well, you are not Herbie, so you can do all of that kind of stuff. And Steven's wondering, who is Herbie?
I know who Herbie is.
Oh, thank God. All right, so we're just going to dry this and come back and put it.
You're talking about the Lindsay Lohan movie with the Volkswagen Beetle, right? Herbie Fully Loaded?
No, I was speaking.
I know.
I can't even. I can't do the Lilo anything. We've got our candle nicely red at this point. It looks pretty opaque. We're going to do some shading and highlighting on it so it doesn't have to be perfect. But I am going to put out a little bit of true burgundy on my palette. And if you don't have the fantastic Art Talk paint kit, which does have true burgundy in it, you could just use some apple red with a little black in it, but I like the true burgundy.
As long as you're not using false burgundy.
No false burgundy. We don't use anything false here.
Right.
We're all about truth, justice, and the American way.
All right, Superman.
All right. Was that Superman?
I don't know. Just sounded like something Superman would say.
Okay. If anyone is about to confuse me with Henry Cavill, you are official as the head of the Santa Andy fan club. All right. So I've got my true burgundy down at the bottom of the top area of the candle. And at the top of the top area, I'm putting some apple red. And then if you want to keep using the big brush, or you can shift down to a number 8 filbert brush, startled myself there, you can add some of the candle drips with your apple red. And I'm going to put 1 drip over on the, let me see which side of, that's the left side of the candle. So we're going to come outside the candle and just pull up a little drip, just like that. And then on the other side, we're going to put in about 3 drips, I suppose. So just coming off the candle a little bit. There's drip 1. And to make these a little brighter, let's pick up some hot saffron. And we're just going to get things moving right along here. Because Santa Stephen has got lots of toys to make.
Hold on. Have I been upgraded to Santa Stephen instead of Elf Stephen?
Did I call you Santa Stephen?
Yeah.
I was so mistaken about that. No, you're still Elf Stephen. I've still got the hat. And don't put some picture of you with that Santa hat on there.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to add a little bit of hot saffron on that drip, and then we'll just pick up more hot saffron and do another couple of drips, and we'll come back to these. Let's turn our attention quickly to our candle flame, and we are going to start with some yellow ochre. So I'm back to my large filbert brush, my number 10 filbert, and a little yellow ochre. And I don't want you to put much paint in your brush. A very small amount of yellow ochre. And what I'm going to do is start at the tip of the candle flame, and I'm going to extend the yellow ochre just slightly outside the pattern line that we transferred. And this is going to make our candle flame look a little bit more realistic, just because it's going to fade the edges of the candle flame out a little bit. Now, an interesting tidbit about a candle flame: if you are taking a picture of a candle flame and your candle is casting a shadow onto your background, just keep in mind your flame will not cast a shadow. So that's a little interesting thing. So if you see a painting and someone has painted the flame of the candle casting a shadow, that's not quite right. You need to look up George de la Tour, and most of his paintings will have some sort of very strong candlelight in it, and he's always got this very big flaming candle there for you to study. All right, so let's take a moment and dry our yellow ochre from our candle flame and get our little candle drips dry. Our painting is dry, and we are going to put a little bit of sunny yellow or medium yellow, doesn't really matter, out on our palette. And I realize I don't have any white paint, which we'll need, but there's probably a bottle on the table over there.
You ready?
Don't throw it.
You can't?
I can't.
You can't?
I can't. It'll hit this paint, I guarantee you. And it'll get on
You're
everything.
so unconfident in your ability to catch. I've seen you catch things before.
You've never seen, I'm like the dog who, like, the treat hits the dog's face. So I've put out some medium yellow or sunny yellow and some titanium white. And I'm going to take my number 10 filbert brush, and I'm going to pick up a little yellow ochre and some of my lighter yellow. And we're going to undercoat the main body of our candle flame. And notice that I'm kind of keeping the edges a little bit irregular, but I'm also going to make sure that some of that yellow ochre is visible outside of my candle flame. And if you start really looking at a candle flame, they're very, very interesting. Sometimes they're almost white, sometimes they're a very pale yellow, sometimes you can see orange, but it's always darker at the bottom of the flame closest to the wick. And you should almost always see a little bit of blue flame down there. All right, so that's basically the wick being undercoated. So let's go back to, we're just kind of bouncing all around here, but let's go back to our wax that's dripping on our candle, and we'll give that another little stroke of hot saffron.
You mentioned when someone looks at a candle flame, the biggest thing I observe when I'm looking at a candle flame is that it's kind of hot, and I should probably back my eyes away from it because I like to get really close to it,
Well,
and then I can't see very well after.
you can't be setting a bad example for your cat. We used to be told not to get too close to the TV or you'll go blind. Is this the one time when I'm right up to the Looney Tunes and I'm going to lose my vision forever?
Now we got these iPad kids.
That's exactly right. Okay, so you can see that our candle is still red and our little dripping wax is a little lighter color. That's more of the hot saffron for an orange. And so I'm going to lighten up our candle flame with some medium yellow or sunny yellow. And I'm going to paint that basically just a little bit inside of our yellow ochre flame.
I think last time on our talk you asked me what I'm getting my cat for Christmas. And I didn't have an answer, but now I do. And it's already ordered. It's on its way.
Is it an iPad?
I got her this little, like, it's like a little ball.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why I'm showing you my fist like it's the same size as my fist. It's not. This is what a ball looks like anyway. And it's got a little battery and like a little gyrosphere in it, and then she pats it, and then it'll run around like on its own, and she gets to chase it. And it's like,
Okay.
yeah, and
So
it's like small and rubber, and it bounces all around and stuff.
like a little gyro ball. She'll be all into that, but then what cat wouldn't be? All right, so I'm side loading my number 12 flat brush with some True Burgundy, and I'm going to create some shadows on my candle drips. So I'm going to go underneath this first drip, and now you can see that that has set that off quite a bit from the surrounding candle wax. And we'll do the same thing under this longer drip and under this drip as well. All right, now we're just going to pat and soften that color down a little bit. All right, so there we've got some darkness underneath that wax, but our stronger dark is going to be down the left side of our candle. So let's continue with our True Burgundy. And we'll shade under this drip and down the left side of the candle. And my brush doesn't have too much paint in it, so this is just kind of skimming on the surface and already making blending super easy. We're just dragging a little bit of that color into the center of the candle, spreading that out easily just with our dry brush. Let's go ahead and paint in our candle wick. So I'm going to use my liner brush, and I'm going to pick up some asphaltum in black. It's going to be mostly black, but I don't want it to be super severe. So the little bit of asphaltum will kind of soften the tone of the black. And now we can paint our wick, which is going to have like the characteristic kind of little knob at the top, and then we'll continue that wick down into the candle, and we will blot to soften that in. So blotting is probably one of the best things that you can do when you're painting. It just really sets things in and softens it very quickly and easily. So we're going to add a little bit of lightness or highlight to our wick with a little bit of thinned titanium white. And if you want to add a little bit of that wick color, just so it's not stark white, you're absolutely welcome to do that. And we will tap that light color on and soften it into that wick, and then again a quick blot just to kind of set that down into the top of the candle. And I can take some True Burgundy on my liner brush and add just a little bit of shadowing to the top of our candle and just make everything just kind of lost in that darkness right there. I'm going to rinse out my number 12 flat brush, and we've got some hot saffron out on our palette, so that's good. So I'm going to side load my brush with a damp side and a hot saffron side of my brush. And I'm going to begin to create the darker part of our candle flame by patting on the hot saffron and moving it down toward the bottom of the flame. Going right around that wick. And then I'm going to turn this. All right, so now we have some beautiful orange colors on our candle flame, and we need to dry that to lock that in place. Okay, so we are back to our candle flame, or I guess our candle in the wind. I'm picking up some apple red, and I'm adding it kind of here in the bottom area of the flame, just to really hammer the fact that this is a bright flame. So you can see how nice and red it is down here and how light it is up near the tip. All right, so I'm adding some medium yellow and white to the top area of my candle flame, and we're just kind of blending that down a little bit. And now we've got a pretty realistic little candle flame going on. Okay, I'm going to put out a little Calypso Sky on my palette. And I'm going to add some Prussian blue. So I'm going to start with a little Calypso Sky. And I'm just going to add a little bit of that right down kind of around the wick. And then I'm going to rinse my brush and pick up some Prussian blue, which is a really, really dark, intense blue. Make sure to blot my brush where the ferrule and the bristles meet. And then we're going to add a little bit of that Prussian blue. That might be too dark, so let's add just a little bit of Calypso Sky to our Prussian blue so that we get a dark blue, but something you can relate to as actually being blue. And we'll just put that on there. And now we've got our blue flame on our candle. Let's shift back to our wax part of our candle, and let's pick up some apple red and a little hot saffron to make a lighter color. And we're just going to dry brush a little bit of this lighter red orange color onto our candle. And if you have too much paint on your brush, you won't be able to kind of achieve this dry brush look and see just how easy it is to apply a little bit of a highlight to the candle. Adding some more hot saffron to my brush. And I don't want to go all the way to the right edge of the candle. I'm moving in toward the center a little bit more. A little bit of yellow to that to lighten and brighten things up a little bit. Because we always want things a little bit shinier during the holidays. So I just added a little bit of yellow to my hot saffron so that I could highlight some of my little dripping wax. But since we've got some blue in our candle flame, I think we need some blue on our candle. So let's take our number 12 flat brush, wipe it out, don't clean it in water, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of some Calypso Sky and a little Prussian blue just on my dry number 12 brush. And this time I'm going right along the very outside edge on the left-hand side. And I'm just scrubbing a little bit of this blue on. And that's going to give me, in just a second, as I add a little bit more Calypso Sky to this, it's going to give me a nice blue reflection on the candle. And you don't want it to be just a tiny line. You see I've come pretty far out with some of that reflected light. So just scrubbing a little bit of that lighter blue on, and now we've got a really nice blue glow on that side of the candle. And let's add some of the blue up here to our little candle drip so it doesn't feel left out or neglected. All right, so that is how you paint a candle. So I want to make sure that you all understand what our lesson was about. We've added some of this diffused lighting effect in our background, and now we've painted a nice red candle and a burning flame. Elf Stephen and I want to wish you a very merry holiday. Elf Stephen and I would like to thank you for joining us for this episode of Art Talk, where we learn to paint a candle and a flame. And if you would like to leave us a compliment, you can email us at plaid_talk@plaidonline.com. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment on this video. It really does help us out quite a bit. The link for the downloadable design and also a link to our Art Talk kits are in the description box below. So thanks for watching and happy holidays.